Hello and welcome to another episode of From the Pink Seats podcast, part of the State of Louisville Podcast Network and powered by our friends at Frankfort Avenue's Liquors and Wine, located at 2115 Frankfort Avenue. Today on our Countdown to Kickoff series, we have a fantastic guest, one of my personal favorites, listening to as a listener of the podcast in previous years, Mac Lain of ESPN and ACC Network, and also of Gramlich and McLean. Be sure to shout by that YouTube channel. They have a great podcast going over just about any and everything you would want to know when it comes to the ACC. So if you're trying to stay up to date on the competition or just as the league as a whole, that's the place to go. Matt, Vince, how you been?
Doing good. I mean, like you said, yeah, Eric's one of my favorites. I mean, he embodies like what we like to do right here. I mean, a big, bald, bearded guy who loves smoking meats and talking football. I mean, that just encapsulates us as a pod. Come on now.
Yes, bald, bearded men.
Yeah, as you sit here with this flow.
And no beard.
Yeah, no beard.
I forgot about that.
I'll go on my end, though. I mean, nothing crazy going on. Man, I'm just ready for ball to start, to be honest with you. I'm tired of – this is like the weird stage of – I would say I don't know how the NBA Finals is going to be going by the time this podcast is released. I mean, you never know how anything –
Boston's going to sweep.
You never know how anything can happen and stuff. But, I mean, outside that, like, we're in that boring season of MLB where it's, like, not – it's – Matt, you know it's boring time of MLB. It doesn't – I mean, like, it's just boring right now.
The polite way to say it is it's the dog days of summer.
Yankees are drumming everyone. We're rolling over everybody. Reds are sucking. There's a huge line for the Ellie De La Cruz bobblehead night for whatever reason. I mean,
because he's better than everyone on the Yankees but Judge. Sorry. Before we derail this conversation,
let's steer this train back on the tracks. As you can tell by my elaborate decor behind me, I am like day 4 into my move into the city of Louisville. Finally, haven't had a chance to get any decorations or anything up yet.
You know, I'm an artist. I can just paint that whole back wall for you, Keith.
Oh yeah, you're a regular Rembrandt down here.
It's gonna be a bunch of plays, football plays all over the place.
Yeah, just spider to Y banana.
Yeah, Keith's finally gonna be a Louisville resident again. This is gonna be great for the show.
I'm excited to be here, but you know what else I'm excited for? Our friend Mac Lain. Now, before we jump over to the interview, I want to remind you all, subscribe, either to wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, or if you listen to us on YouTube. We're trying to climb to 1,000 subscribers. Get in there, tickle that subscribe button ever so gently for us. But so that being said, without any further ado, here's our friend Mac Lain. And joining us now from ACC Network and ESPN, Mac Lain. Thanks for hopping on the podcast with us.
Let's go, baby. I've got the shirt. It's the color that matches perfect. Like, is it pink? Is it red? Nobody knows. But we're here. Great to see y'all, man. Great to see you guys.
Great to see you. And you've even got the Pat Kelsey glasses, too.
I'm in. Let me tell you something. I've been on for a long time. He's a great coach. It was just a matter of time for somebody swooped him up.
Oh my God! I think you're the first person we've sent a shirt to that's actually like showed back up on the podcast and repped the shirt, and we're like, this is great. That genuinely pumped. So that's
it's the honor of the reoccurring guest.
Best shirt I've ever received. So,
all right. Well, Eric, we'll get things kicked off. So bringing you in to give more of a conference-wide and sort of a national view set of what's going on with the Louisville Cardinal team. They've had a bit of a hectic offseason with the amount of transfers going in and out and in and back out again. So just what have been your thoughts on Louisville's hectic offseason and what we expect that to look like?
Yeah, it's always funny when you're preparing for interviews or looking at shows you have coming up or even things like this. And you're, just kind of scouting and getting your things. I use a guy called Our Lads. They do a great job with depth charts and things of that nature. And they highlight when it's new people, when they have transfers coming in or freshmen, and Louisville is all highlighted, baby. We got a lot of highlights. So, it's one of those things where it was a big question last year. And what did Louisville do? They marched right to an ACC championship game, and we're really able to take advantage of the schedule and got guys on the same page. And of course, Coach Brahman, just how amazing he is and such a great play caller, but coach as well. He was able to get his culture instituted very quickly. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like, okay, you got to give the guy a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I mean, they know what they're doing. Do I like the constant turnover? No, I don't like seeing that. I believe Louisville has the second most transfers coming in behind only Colorado. I think that's the number that I saw recently. I would love to see a little bit more sustainability. Would love to see kind of a better mixture of the high school versus, but hey, this is the rules. If you want to play by them, you want to acquire talent however you want to, it probably is better to go get grown men who are ready to compete right now than having to wait and develop, 2, 3, however many years to get guys going.
Yeah, I feel like especially with you being a Clemson guy, we're working on two complete opposite ends of the spectrum here where Dabo's just not using the portal. He's
What's that? I didn't know there was a portal. What are you guys talking about?
I've been Louisville churning and burning through players with their last year of eligibility. I'm more on the fence with you. I would like to see a little bit more retention and sustainability in the recruiting model, but worked year one. So I guess we're at the roulette table and we're letting it ride.
That's right. And again, I just think it's one of those things that take advantage of the rule however you want to, and it's, again, one of those where, you're just questioning, I guess, can you do it every year? And back-to-back years, you're filling it up. You got a roster. So we'll see what the results are. But it'll be interesting to see just how does the model change, or is this just who they're going to be, at their time at Louisville?
How with the amount of transfers they've brought in, I mean, at some point you're going to eventually bring someone who's, pretty highly regarded. I haven't checked the numbers in a while, but I think the last time I saw it, like Louisville's got like 8 4-star caliber transfers coming in as part of their like 25, 26, 27 transfers coming in. So it's not only just quantity of transfers, right. It's quality as well. It's not like, oh yeah, we've got a whole bunch of guys coming in. Like, no, there are some guys who are coming in who you expect are going to be like, when you get to the end of the season, like, okay, these are guys who helped define the season.
Right. Exactly. And that's kind of the point, and probably why it's so enticing to just recruit, that free agency that it is, because again, you're getting known commodities at the college level. It's not there's this 3-star who's a borderline 4-star in high school that we think he can be this. No, we know what this guy's going to be. So it's give and take. And of course, you make those business decisions to think and choose what fits best for your program.
So with the amount, and this is season preview season for you, so if it's an unfair question, just tell me off the bat. But of this landslide of new transfers coming into Louisville, are there any that have got you particularly excited about rolling into the ACC?
Yeah, well, let me just tell you, anytime you see someone with the name Thor, you get a little excited. So, and then I see he plays defensive line, and I'm just like, geez, sign me up. This guy's got to be an absolute freak nasty. And I think y'all correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there a massive offensive lineman too? Do I remember seeing that, like a 6'8" maybe guy? Huge
Jonathan
guy.
Mendoza from Yale.
Yeah, Mendoza. Yeah, big dude, man. So I'm like, you guys know. Huge dude. I'm a line of scrimmage guy. Big people hurt little people. Let's go to work.
Well, with that being said, I mean, we lost we're losing Brian Hudson this year, and how difficult can it be?
King. We're losing our
king. I know. And the toughest son of a bitch you've ever seen, too, playing with all those injuries and stuff. And how difficult can it be to replace that center position, especially with bringing in and just having to learn everything on the fly, essentially.
Yeah, well, he was so instrumental, man, throughout this whole process with the transition and the coaching staff change and getting the offense. I mean, we interviewed him early last year. I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it might even have been preseason. He might have helped us do the preview last year, and just hearing him, man, about the amount of time that those seniors and those upperclassmen were not forcing, but forcing people to get in there. Like, hey, we got to know this. Like, this is my last shot. This is your last shot. Everybody, and so the extra time and the accountability from that position, from a guy that's been there, done that, right? And a really, really good player. Of course, that's hard to fill, and it's hard to again, to manage that on the field presence and what he was able to do between the lines, but then it's almost double tripled what he was and who he was off the field. So certainly something where, whoever it's going to be, if it's Pete, the transfer coming in, or somebody else that steps up at the transfer spot there at center, but it's certainly big shoes to fill.
Yeah, so far, and from what I saw in spring of Pete Nyker, he looked pretty good. And kind of on that same vein of like talking about transfers on the offensive side of the ball, obviously one of the first guys that people are gonna talk about when it comes to transfers for Louisville is going to be Tyler Shuck, and he's a long in the tooth. It's not common that you see a 7th-year transfer, but this is modern college football, so And he's had the unfortunate distinction of having that injury-prone label, just because he's honestly kind of been more unlucky than injury-prone. But he's got, it seems when you watch his film, he's got proven commodities. But then when you insert him into a league like the ACC, and you've got the ACC has kind of gets a bad rap the last few years when you talk about the Big Ten, SEC. But one thing that people continue to praise it for is the quarterbacks that come in out of this league on a yearly basis. And I think because of that, it seems like Shuck's kind of flying under the radar from a national perspective when talking about who the top quarterbacks in the league are. As someone who's had a chance to really get to talk to a lot of these players, a lot of these guys and coaches, where do you kind of see Shuck fitting into the mix as it pertains to your quote unquote ACC QB power rankings?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you hit the nail on the head. It's, can he make it through the whole season? And that's the biggest thing. He's not getting younger, right? He's not, have the fountain of youth on his side here. So, for me, I think certainly the film, when you turn it on and you see what he's able to do, how he's able to distribute the ball, obviously a guy that's been in a handful of different offenses. So you would think that he picks that up pretty quickly and understands terminology, gets that out. But my biggest thing is just, is he going to be there for, all 12 plus games? And we just don't know. It's kind of the big question mark there, and then who's ready behind him. So in regards to rankings, probably back middle. Again, there's so much talent in this, proven talent that's been in the league, to have a guy just come in and, jump to the top. Cam Ward is probably the only guy down in Miami that is probably cracking the top 3, top 5, just because of the talent that we've seen from him on a consistent basis. And just thinking, okay, with this juiced up offensive line, this juiced up team that, Miami has acquired, surely, he's going to be able to drive the boat there. So a little bit more of a known commodity, I guess, why Cam is significantly higher on my list when it comes to transfers coming in and just landing, in the top 5.
Last year when we had you on, you mentioned you were talking about the potential of our offense, and you said the ability to be explosive but not one-dimensional is what gets me excited. Do you think we achieved that last year in 2023? And do you think with Shuck this year we can even add on to that and become even more explosive? Because clearly with Plummer we were handcuffed in a lot of ways. I'll say it that way.
Yeah, but I think the ability that you just guys had to run the football was sick. That Notre Dame game is unbelievable. And the fact that just physically boloed those dudes and the way that it was happening, duo, inside zone, count, whatever you want. It was dialing up that night. And there was certainly – it was just weird, right? The passing game in regards to explosive things that we think would or should have happened, with sacks, with drops, with just – untimely things where you're just like, there it is, and it didn't happen. And so
exactly,
I think certainly, that takes everybody, right? It's, obviously quarterbacks are always going to get the blunt of the bad stuff and the praise. They get it all. And that just comes with, that position. But I do think that there was a lot of other things maybe happening that, like you said, kind of handcuffed, the offense. I don't think it was one dimensional. I thought they were very balanced in regards to being able to respond. And, a lot of times, brother, people, when they hear the word balance, they think, okay, you're going to run it 40 times, you're going to pass it 40 times. But to me, balance is, if you load up the box and you're taking away the run, I have the ability to pass because I am balanced and I can do things of that nature. So that's what I look for, man, to be able to have answers, to be able to, if something is forced to be taken away from you or a team is blatantly trying to say, hey, we're going cloud coverage, you're not throwing it. Can you run it on a 3-man front? That's when you have reached, this, kind of utopia for offensive football.
It felt good this year to know that when at those times when we were strapped at quarterback or just Jack wasn't in the zone for whatever reason, we could turn to the run game with either running back and be fine with that. It seems to be this year that we'll have that good issue to have again.
Yeah.
No
Sorry, hearing the phrase 3-man front gives me flash.
Where's the point? Where's the guy?
Yeah, no kidding. And actually, speaking of that front, all this talk about the transfers coming in and the impact that they're going to have, but what's one saying that when it comes to talent retention, some of the best kids are the ones you already have, and
that's right.
Two of Louisville's best guys who are heading into 24 guys they already had. They had to come back, and defensive end Ashton Gelati and cornerback Quincy Riley.
Yeah.
I mean, on a defense that was already going to be pretty talented and did a good job loading up the portal, like as it pertains like the national race and trying to build on that first year, how big is it that they were able to bring back both these guys who could have very easily gone to the NFL draft and gotten drafted?
Sure. Or, went to the highest bidder, because I'm sure there was plenty of people reaching out saying, hey, come here, we can pay you whatever. It's huge. It really is. And especially a guy like Ashton, just again, a trenches guy. Love what I see there and think it can impact the game, so heavily. But man, he is such a weapon because he can play every spot. I mean, if we want to go with a rabbit package and put him in the middle, if we want to put him at 3 technique or just be at his natural position at defensive end. So you're essentially talking about a guy that is 4 defensive linemen, in one, that is such a presence and such a veteran guy that understands, that has really developed nicely these last couple of years and, coming to his own. And then with Quincy and just the ability to shut down a side of the field. I mean, follow the best guy if you want, stay on one side if you want, and just say, don't even look over here, brother. There's no point. Your guy's not going to be open. And, one thing that I think is interesting, because those 2 positions, it's ironic that, you kind of look at it the way we do with offensive line and cornerback. If you don't know what you're looking at, they're the hardest to grade. They're the hardest to, judge in regards to, that's a first round draft pick. Because what does everyone want to do? Look at the stats. What do they have? Oh, this guy's got no picks. He has 1 PBU. He's terrible. No, they don't throw the ball his way. You know what I mean? Exactly. And so you really got to watch. You really got to know what you're looking at there. And I think he has that ability going into this year.
Speaking on Ashton, what would the difficulty be with putting him in a 0? Somebody with that explosiveness, the reach, the pass rushing ability, because a lot of times the nose tackle doesn't have the pass rushing ability that somebody on the edge does. So speak on that with you being an interior guy.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing is when you have that, long-armed hybrid guy in the middle, that's really hard to deal. Now, run blocking, we might like it a little bit. We get on the hip,
right, exactly.
But if you get those big dogs dancing, it's tough, man. And again, the plethora of moves, the conversion of speed to power, because if I'm on the inside, I'm trying to overset, get to my spot, and then bam, he just runs through my chest. So it's really difficult. And again, that's why I'm even more excited that he came back, because I hope we get to see more of that diversity and where he lines up and just a plethora of things you can ask him to do, because everyone's going to know, hey, look at 9. We're going to slide to him. We're going to chip him. We're going to have all these different tight ends stay in, whatever it is, that guy. But when you move him around, it's hard to do that. And if somebody else, emerges, is it Thor, is it Jordan, is it Miles, whoever else on that defensive line, if someone else can emerge and take that pressure off or just eat, hey, if they're sliding to me, that means the backside's ready. You got to go. Yeah. They can't double team all of us. So, sometimes, and I know Ashton, don't listen, cover your ears, Ashton. The best thing you can do for your team is be, the ultimate kind of distraction guy that everyone's going towards and focusing on.
Yeah, Norm, I feel like that attitude really applies. Like a lot of D tackles really have to embrace that attitude to survive. It's like the best thing I can do for the team, eat this double team. Eat this double team.
No question about it.
So with the turnover on the roster, while also retaining 2 of the key pieces of the defense that really contributed mostly to the success last year, we've danced around a little bit, but where do we see Louisville sort of flushing out in the ACC this year?
Yeah, it's I think it's going to be tougher. I think the schedule is much more difficult this year. You're looking at a much improved Georgia Tech team that I think is going to be really good. That I think is going to hurt some people's feelings this year.
My roommate Robbie Bell is going to love hearing that.
There you go. Notre Dame, we don't quite know, and obviously you guys handled them last year, but Riley Leonard being there, I think he's a really good player. Will be interesting to see. We were all going back and forth on SMU. I think they're a really dangerous team. Miami, you got them at home. That's great. Travel to Clemson, and then of course finishing with Pitt. And Kentucky is going to be difficult at Kentucky. Can we please beat Kentucky? My God, please! Can we get it?
I re-listened to the episode that we had last year with you, and you were like, "That one's the one circled. That's the one. That's the one."
I hate it. Like, listen, we did it for you. We got them, and we did it. You're welcome. We need you to do it.
Hey, we got Notre Dame for you all. You're welcome.
That's right. Hand in hand. We beat their tail at home too. We're good. But yeah, no question. So we'll see. So what was that math in my head? Maybe 4 losses is the basement. Like, let's not do worse than that. And if you're looking at 8-4, I think that's a good season with this schedule. Now, certainly not to sit here and say that we can't go back to back and play in Charlotte again. But I think there's going to have to be a little bit of luck, obviously health, and just guys take it to another level. Because again, it's so many guys that we don't know. We don't know what it's going to look like in a Louisville, uniform against another team. I know some of these guys were here in spring. So as I've said for many, many years, it's just the mystery, man. You just don't know.
And for a second, if you're going to be a little more optimistic on this team and say, like, maybe you can steal one from Notre Dame in South Bend, maybe you can finally get that Clemson monkey off your back and march into Death Valley and get one there.
I won't say that part.
or avoid.
We'll edit that part out. Edit it out.
Or if you avoid the Pitt style letdown and maybe get to a point where you are flirting with double-digit wins again.
Yeah.
Do you think with the move to the 12-team playoff format, that if Louisville is in the same position that they were last year, put themselves kind of trying to jockey for getting into the ACC title game, have 9, maybe 10 wins. Do you think it's sort of realistic to think that they could potentially crash the party and get into the newly expanded CFP?
You've got to be 2-1 against Notre Dame, Miami, and Clemson. However you want to shake it out, and you've got to be playing in the ACC championship. If not, then no. I mean, it's going to be one of those things. Which, given your situation, that's probably a yes to what you're saying there. But I think there's going to be a lot of other people fighting for it this year, man. I legitimately, and again, this is June. We're talking here. So many things can change, but I feel so good about 5 and Louisville probably the 6th, just because, again, the amount of unknowns in regards to how it's going to all come together. But when the heck have we ever said that? Where there's 5 teams that you're like, yeah, I could see 60. I could see any one of them, playing in Charlotte, especially with the no divisions, man. But the kicker, for the whole league is you got to do it. And especially these out of conference games, which we're going to have a lot of opportunity to be able to do that. It matters, man. And it matters more than ever this year, because the 1 is great, right? Like, okay, awesome. We got 1 in the playoff. Better than last year because we didn't, but it's all about 2 now. It's all about 2+. Like, how do you secure that and get, multiple bids in this thing? Because everyone's thinking you're not, right? Everyone's thinking, it's just going to be 1 team, and the SEC is going to have, 7 teams, and the Big Ten is going to have the rest. So how can you crash that party, go fly that flag when you play out of conference games and make it a statement?
Yeah, and I mean, you really have to fly the flag because the ACC did that last year, and we still see how that went. So, with you being to switch things to a little bit of a lighter note, while we're all just quietly seething for Florida State,
so dark, so fast.
Well, speaking of Florida State, I mean, they got your boy DJ now. How do you feel about that? I mean, he's back in the ACC, back for vengeance.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about it? Do you think that's – because I love Jordan Travis. I always said Jordan Travis would have been the starting quarterback at Louisville if he would have stayed the entirety of his career here.
Yeah.
Do you think that's an upgrade for them, downgrade? I mean, DJU brings a different style of play than Jordan did for sure.
Yeah, I don't think we can sit here and say upgrade at all. Upgrade from what we saw the rest of the way from them for sure. Upgrade from anybody else there. But I think what's interesting is when that first happened, and I've apologized literally to Coach Norvell. Not that I needed to, but I just did. That when it happened, I was like, oh, that is gross. Doesn't fit. Doesn't make any sense. I don't know how that is going to work out. But what was silly of me was to put Coach Norvell in this box that his offense was going to be what JT ran. And that's not the case. He is so smart and such a great offensive person. That offense is going to be whatever DJ is good at. I mean, that's just at the end of the day. So a lot of deep balls, a lot of quarterback power, things of that nature and getting the ball out of his hand. I mean, that's going to be where they really thrive. And if you think back to the Memphis days, they did that a ton. I mean, they didn't have Jordan Travis at Memphis. They didn't have a caliber guy of that nature doing that thing. So I think we're going to see a little bit, obviously, different offense than we have at Florida State. But how much can Coach Norvell, who I think is a great quarterback whisperer, think he's an excellent guy, how much can he get DJ to what we saw against Notre Dame when he started that game, against Boston College when he started that game back in 2020, that everyone thought, this is going to be a Heisman winner. This is going to be a national champ. This is going to be a first-round draft pick quarterback at Clemson that however, whatever happened, didn't. And I think the other really, significant piece that not a lot of people are talking about yet, and quite frankly, I don't think I've heard anybody say it but myself, is that Norvell's going to be in his helmet. He's going to be talking to him with this communication. I can't even imagine that. I mean, that dude's going to be fine. He's mentally going to be perfect. So I'm excited to see that little nuance. How much is he able to speed everything up because you got that voice of reason between your ears.
Eric, you just made me. I mean, like I'm thinking of the conversation Scott Satterfield and Malik Cunningham would have in a headset like that. Just outside zone to the left. He'd be throwing his hands out like this again. Like, that's really what you're going to tell me right now?
Right. So pulling things out to like looking at the ACC from a 30,000-foot view.
Yeah.
I got to know, what are your thoughts on Cal Stanford being the next great ACC rivalry?
Awesome.
But on a serious note, like, how long did it take you to get used to seeing Cal Stanford SE and you're like, oh yeah, those are conference matchups now?
Yeah. TBD. Still hasn't. And it's really, it's one of those things where it's so just different and bizarre. When I'm orchestrating and trying to get, interviews and talk to these coaches, I'm telling them times and they're like, is this PT or ET? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like no, I've got to worry about 3-hour difference.
We're doing an offensive lineman to be doing this much, man.
I can't do all that. Give me one thing. We're doing an interview next week about this time and it's at like 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, okay, well, here we go. Where everything we do with those guys is just going to be at night. Yeah, it's interesting, man. I think at the end of the day, the ACC thought that was a great move for them, and we welcome them. And hey, here we are. Let's get it going. I think, holistically, it's a great move. I mean, you look at other sports just outside of football, it's going to be a real strength and something to really pay attention to. And we talked with Coach Taylor from Stanford a couple of days ago. Man, I've never talked to him before. I don't know if he was at Amelia Island. I must have missed him because I was looking for him if he was there. Or I don't know if he was able to attend or not. But I love that dude. I mean, he was awesome. He really reminds me of, Coach Dabo Swinney, the way that he looks at, his family first, his career path. If you guys haven't looked at that, you should go see it. It is bizarre just how he's gotten to where he is, how he's done it. So I love that. I love meeting new people. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I'll tell you the worst thing is if they just come in and ravage the league. I mean, that would suck.
Football is not going to do. No, that's not gonna My biggest thing with these guys is them coming down. I always remember my teammates from California and out west that first week, 2 weeks, and like they would get here in June, right? And they would be dying because the humidity, the weather, and everything like that. I'm anxious to see how much that stuff comes into play with some of these guys coming into town with just a 24, 48-hour notice of coming to play.
It's going to be great. And I'm trying to see. So Stanford comes to Clemson September 28th. That's going to be hot. And let's see Cal. Let's see their first one. I think they have NC State, maybe. No, they're in Tallahassee, so that's going to be brutal. Yeah, welcome.
Oh my gosh!
Now, with the conversations that you have been able to have, and I have some pre-research on the teams coming in, what do you think we can expect coming out of these three newcomers? I know we talked a little bit before the recording about how SMU is kind of spooky, but as a whole, what do we expect from the three newcomers?
Yeah, I think SMU is probably in the best situation, which is weird because they're the G5 team, coming up and doing that, but they've hit the portal hard. And, I think the biggest, differentiator when you're looking at a P5 team versus a G5 team in the old days, skill guys are everywhere, right? Everybody has skill guys, but it's the lines of scrimmage. It's the linemen, that's, and specifically offensive linemen. That's the biggest difference. But you look at their guys, they're from Oklahoma, TCU, it's guys that have played at this level that are ready to go. So, I think it was probably, a little unfair vantage point if you just look at the bowl game and say, well, they got annihilated by BC. I mean, these guys are going to be terrible. It was pouring down rain. They had a third-string quarterback or something of that nature. I think a couple people that also opted out in regards to best defensive players. So that I don't think that's a very fair kind of look at them. I easily think that they're going to be upper middle of the pack. I mean, finishing 7 or better is where I think SMU will certainly end up. Cal, I think, is probably the second of the three. I really love their running back. I think he's a versatile weapon, a guy that had maybe like 1,400 yards or something like that total for his team last year. Yeah, really, really good player. And I think they have a couple more pieces. Stanford they lost so much the year before Coach Taylor came in. And I think they've only added maybe 8, 9 in the transfer portal, which you can't get in there. I mean, it is impossible. It's like talking to him about it, how hard it is. Like they can't even take grad transfers because
we had Stephen Aaron on a couple weeks ago, and he was just talking about the difficulty of being a student athlete. And I mean, it was miserable. So
it's crazy. And so they've got a little bit of a 2 quarterback system, which I'm a 1 quarterback guy. I don't love using both, but they do it specifically. I mean, one guy's a pretty much he was their leading rusher, the backup quarterback, and the other guy certainly showed flashes. So I think they have a little bit of ways to go. But again, talking with Coach Taylor, how he's doing it. I don't know if they'll quite get back to the Shaw days, the Christian McCaffrey, Andrew Luck, but I think they can be competitive. So I love his mindset, love his culture building, and we'll see. It's a different time, though. It's a different time.
They've also got Elike Manor, who torched Travis Hunter.
Bad boy. That dude. How about this? So, Coach, we were talking to him about it. He said, 2 days before, he came out of a knee brace. He was just in a knee brace, really hampered, whatever. Gets out of the knee brace. The first half, he was looking at him like, "Are you okay? Like, what's going on?" He had no catches in the first half, and then just exploded in the second half. And Coach said it was like a video. He didn't even know what was happening. I mean, it was just insane.
Had to make sure the thing worked.
Yeah, just chesting it out.
Yeah, that was the same weekend as the Louisville Pitt game, and that was the night before. And I was watching on my phone, like, is Stanford really about to pull this off?
Dude, I went to bed, woke up. And I was like, how did this happen? Here we are. And I watched the rest of the game. It was awesome.
So with the national landscape constantly changing as it is, I know we had talked about some of the recent expansions. Is the ACC looking to try and do that again? Or are they trying to sit despite a few rabble-rousers rocking the boat?
Yeah. I don't know, man. We'll see. It'll be interesting. It seems like there's strength in numbers in this new world that we're really in. But with that comes a reduced money pot. And nobody's trying to do that. I mean, that's the absolute opposite of what, I think everybody is trying to do, at least people that really value and care about, the sport type of thing. But I've heard whispers with Utah, which has been weird. I mean, I think those are just Twitter whispers. I'm not sure how legitimate that is or isn't. Which would be awesome. I mean, that'd be fantastic to add them. But it just, without striking up a new deal, without, anything of that nature, I don't know how you're in position to add anybody else, because that's probably certain departures for some, which would be fascinating.
I feel like.
Which maybe it already is. Maybe it already is. I don't know.
Who knows? I feel like, but like you were talking about, I feel like one of the only additions we could make that would actually add revenue to the league pod is if we could talk our friends in Indiana to actually hop in and join us in football as well.
Yeah, how fun would that be? How fun would that be?
Yeah, good luck with that.
You had a chance back in 2020. Should have did it.
That was the leverage play, and they let it pass. But all right, so one last sort of national question, and then we're going to switch to a little bit of fun stuff for a little bit of rapid fire before you get out of here. So actually, to date when we're recording this, it came out today that multiple reports regarding the Big 12, one of which is that they are partnering with, no free ads, a prominent insurance company who is going to potentially take over the name of the league. So it will be the Insurance Company 12 was the proposed idea. Is this something you could you expect other leagues to try and follow? Like, are we about to be looking at the Ingles Atlantic Coast Conference in the next 2 to 3? Yeah, I got you. I got you
for that one. Hashtag is my favorite thing that came from this show. Yeah, why not? I mean, let's find a way to bring in revenue, especially just other leagues that feel like there is a substantial gap from where they want to be. Why wouldn't all cards be on the table? I mean, I think at the end of the day, you're trying to do whatever you can. And what also I think is enticing is the jersey patch for individual schools, and also the field logos and being able to sell that. So is that something that now these schools that have great and fantastic kind of sales and marketing departments can go out and maybe get some of that money and get those entitlement rights that maybe, okay, this feels a little better. We got an extra couple million to stack up there, in best case, double-digit million, per year that we can stack up against, this 20, 30, 40, whatever the million gap is. You never really know what that number is. So, I think it's fantastic. It would be fascinating to see. Again, that has to be a big number. If you're doing something of that nature, we're not, selling that half off. There's no deal. When we're doing this. It needs to be a prominent thing. And especially if you're talking about renaming something. But at the end of the day, who's in a better position than us with the Atlantic Coast Conference that's out in the Pacific? Let's do it, baby. Let's change this thing up and make some cash.
Do you feel like there's a line?
I'll tell you what, Kentucky fans are going to be real mad whenever, it's going to be the Southeastern Tyson Chicken Nuggets or something like that. And then their whole conference goes Tyson Chicken on them. So that'd be good.
No, I tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see what comes up the next couple months as it pertains to trying to figure out how do we generate more revenue. Because, they're going to need schools, not just the ACC, schools all over are going to need to find $20 million before the 2025-26 season because of that house case. They're going to need to find some money. And there's a lot of schools out there who, quite frankly, don't have that money. So they got to figure out something to kind of make a quick buck. So I have a feeling that we are nowhere near out of the woods as it pertains to coming up with ideas on how to generate some big dollars.
And what's fascinating about that, it's like, what are the rules? What are the guys how are you paying? Who are you paying? How much is Title IX a part of this? I mean, it's funny. Graham Neff and I have an unbelievable relationship, the athletic director at Clemson. And I literally, every time I see him, jokingly say, still want to be an athletic director? And ask me tomorrow. I mean, it's great. It is crazy to be in athletics right now, just in all these changes. But also, I think people like himself embrace it and love it. And it's challenges, man. And especially younger folks like he, man, let's figure it out. We got time. I got time. I got a lot of things to do.
Seems like that's how Josh Hurd's looking at it as well.
Yeah. I mean, why not? There's no reason to sulk, let's figure this thing out.
You're going to get left behind and eventually be jobless if you don't adapt with how everything is changing.
Exactly.
And, I mean,
and it's going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be a lot of hard decisions on, do you shrink staffs? Where's this 20 million? Like you said, Matt, where's it coming from? Because at the end of the day, I think what it is you're allotting whatever your budget is, let's say $100 million, that 20 million, it ain't going to 120. You got to figure it out within how you're going to do it. So it is, it's fascinating to say the least. And then if this whole scholarship thing happens where,
I know,
we're getting rid of walk-ons and we're moving the whatever scholarship number to 90 or 85, whatever it is going to be. I mean, we've got some crazy stuff happening. That is totally changing the entire landscape that I don't think people, quite honestly, are paying enough attention to.
No.
It really
No,
is.
You can't get rid of walk-ons.
Exactly. Come on.
Let's classify it as something else, like practice, whatever. But you can't get rid of that. I mean, that's crazy.
No,
That's
no.
I mean, if you have to suit up the players like they look like they drive for NASCAR, do it.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a boomer on that one. It's like maybe a chest patch. Just like, come on, have it sort of blend in, keep it regional. That's
Dude,
fun.
think about the visors with a bunch of
Oh my God.
Safe light visors.
I love Big Newton. Right across the front.
Yes. I just want a mountain lion on the hood of mine, bro. Just hook me
Well, I don't think the four of us are going to be able to solve the economics of college football. So now it's time to shift to a little bit of fun stuff. So, Eric, you know your way around a barbecue. So
Come on.
I'm going to hold you down. I'm going to ask you the hard-hitting journalistic questions.
Please.
Now, I'm going to preface this with excluding Carolina style, because I gotta get rid of the bias in the judge. So, excluding Carolina style, what's your favorite regional barbecue in the country?
Well, here's the deal. There's a lot of different Carolina styles. So you just taking all of them away? You're just ripping all of them? Because vinegar-baked barbecue is not barbecue. That's the worst stuff I've ever tasted in my life. That's not barbecue. I'm a mustard guy, and if you had to break my arm, I guess I love Texas. I mean, that's mainly brisket, but I can throw down with some brisket, man.
Okay.
About the only style I'm not a fan of is Memphis because it's way too vinegary.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want any of that. You don't want.
Well, see, I also feel like that's just inherent bias against Memphis State from being a Louisville person. So I'm a big Kansas City guy myself. Love that sweetness.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. But yeah, haven't had barbecue I don't like, though. That's why I got the O-line stature.
I love
Same.
Vince, you want to revisit the Duke take from last year? I know you were talking about that.
Yes.
Well, I mean, like I said, Eric, I went back and I listened. I wanted to get you and I going back and forth on a Duke topic. And I'm like, we never really got into it that well. We must have gotten into it pre-show because you were at Duke doing you were on site at Duke doing a show there.
Yeah.
And
what were we saying? You thought they were terrible and I thought they were good, or what?
Yeah, I said, well, essentially my whole take is I don't believe in Duke football.
Yeah.
Like,
and then they don't think it's. I mean, what the heck? It's unbelievable.
Well, it played right into my hand too for us playing Duke as well. And you're the only person I could think of because I remember you were so positive on Duke during this game because Riley Leonard was banged up coming in. Yeah. And I'm like, he's going to be a wounded deer back there. This is easy.
Brutal, dude. And you know what's so funny about that Clemson Louisville game is, we were there, we were on site, we were having a good time, all these different things. And, I'm being nice. I'm being fun to everybody, knowing that my Tigers are about to play. And this guy comes up to me, and he's wearing, overalls, and he's painted up, and the younger dude. And he's like, what will it take for you to wear this, overall, whatever? I was like, if y'all beat Clemson, I'll put it on TV. Thank God I never saw that guy again. I would never wear it. I'm not wearing it. Sorry.
You can't be making TV bets with random guys.
Yeah, I'm a liar, dude. It's all good. Fine.
I can live with
that. Eric, got one last question for you, and then we'll get you out of here. I actually want to go back to the smoked meats topic. You're making any cut you want. Doesn't matter, like brisket, pork, doesn't matter. What dry rub are you using?
Ooh, great question. I'm a big meat church guy. Matt Pittman out in Texas, kind of goes with my Texas deal. And he has this thing. It's called Honey Hog. It is so versatile, man. You can put it on chicken. You can put it on pork. You can put it on steak if you like a little sweeter steak. But it is good, man. It's so tasty. I'll send you all the link, put you on. But he has a plethora of stuff. Now, if I'm doing just chicken, which I know you gave me the free landscape, I do this thing called voodoo, which is a little bit of Cajun, a little bit of spice.
Yes.
I love that flavor, man. But I'm a big seasoned guy. I'll load it up. I mean, we're gonna have some crust on our meat when we're smoking this thing.
So you guys are smoked meats and stuff. I'm over here. I'm Italian. I
You're a
love
sous vide guy.
tomato sauce.
Vince is a sous vide guy.
Oh my God, no!
Yes.
I'm not. I played fullback. I'm not a pretty boy. What are you talking about?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is Eric Mac Lain, ESPN, ACC Network, Gramlich and McLean on YouTube. We're going to have a link in the description to the channel. Subscribe here, then go over there, subscribe there, get yourself educated on all things ACC over there. They just put out a recent episode with Dan Radakovich, AD at University of Miami. Really a thought-provoking conversation that I really enjoyed. And Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Can't thank you enough.
Always great to be with you guys. That means football is here, baby. Let's go. We're close.
Yes.
Can't wait. And thank you all again for tuning in. This is going to wrap up episode 3 of our summer series. And as always, go Cards.